Good evening and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with Bear Prepper. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, 2013, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. I first want to say thank you for bearing with us and waiting it out, and we're sorry that we're a few minutes late starting. We're on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time, first and third Tuesday on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast many different hosts 7 days a week, so please check out the host tab for more information on shows and times. You can also listen to all previous shows under the host archive. If you'd like to join us in the chat room, come on over to PrepperBroadcasting.com and click on the Listen and Chat at the top of the page. You'll then be taken to the chat room. Create your name or just accept the default name and come on in. You'll always be in for a treat with some lively chat and interesting conversation. Tomorrow night, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, it's Goat Hollow and the Surreal News. The facts about werewolves without the slant. Okay, so we got a little later start today, and I want to thank G-Man for being so persistent with Blog Talk to get us up and running. So let's all give him a big hand. Thank you, G-Man. He's our producer for those of you that are new. And I can see we got a lot of new faces in the chat room tonight, and I'm hoping they're brand new preppers that are here together, everybody's wisdom. So I hope you call in and share your knowledge. And new preppers, I hope you call in and ask your question. For those of you in the chat room, try to remember that those listening in on the phone can't see the chat. So if you could possibly call in your questions, that would be wonderful. All right. So many of you have been prepping for years, but I want you to think back to when you first woke up and realized that something wasn't right and you needed to prepare. Remember all the research you did to come to that conclusion? Or maybe it was simply a still small voice that told you to prepare. With that realization, there was some issue that brought this into focus. You can use that as your base as to what to prepare and to prioritize your preparations so that you can stay calm and focus your efforts. Remember, prepping is a journey more than a destination. I personally will never be done prepping. One thing that I have found in my years of work is that after someone has done something for some time, it's really hard to remember what it was like in the beginning. Excuse me. I'm sorry, folks. We've got a 95-degree day yesterday, and so every single plant in the city decided to bloom at the same exact time, and it is kicking my hiney. Okay. So situations or circumstances are ever-changing. Our preps change with us as our focus changes. Think back to when you first felt that tugging of something in the back of your mind leading you to prep. It may have been as blunt as Hurricane Sandy, or possibly it was just little things here and there that eventually and gradually led you to where you are today. Regardless of the journey, I believe it's important to remember your roots, and by doing so, you will be more armed to help other people to come into the understanding of what is going on in the world around us, thus helping them get more prepared. If I happen to cut completely off, someone cue me. Having issues with my headset tonight, and that way I won't be quiet for too long. Remember how little good you were able to accomplish in the heat of the battle. Why is calm, thoughtful prepping a better way to go than the fill the shelves up fast mentality? What did you do as old preppers to calm the nerves as you worried time was running out? You know, I have always had food storage. It just seemed the right thing to do. There have been many times in my life when I let my food storage lapse and found out during the financial crisis why I started storing food in the first place. But I have not always been a prepper. To me, a prepper is someone that prepares for any and all crisis. or as I like to say, prepping for life's storms. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story that I have not shared with many. Some of you might look at me differently, and maybe some of you will think I'm crazy. But I have to tell you the truth here. I woke up in 2005 to prepping with a little small voice one morning that said, prepare. I asked myself, what for? I figured I'd be raptured, so what was the reasoning? But I said, okay, fine. Maybe it's for someone else and not myself. Just figures, but I'll do what I'm asked. Then the research began. As far as the rapture, let's just say, through research, knowledge is gained. I started planning on how I was going to get prepared on a grand scale. I created some long, medium, and short-term goals. My long-term goal is to be totally off-grid at my retreat 100% of the time and keep my cost of living down to $500 a month. Priority, do you feel like you have to rush through because everyone is running around like Chicken Little screaming the sky is falling? It makes the babies like me in prepping feel overwhelmed. How do we get past that? That's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about goals, decisions, questions you should be asking yourself. Okay, so one of the first things I noticed was that there wasn't a whole lot I could do with what little money I had left at the end of the month. So I knew the first thing I had to do was get out of debt and get a better job. That became my first medium-term goal. I know a lot of you don't like Dave Ramsey, but I got to tell you, the process works. Okay, now nobody make fun of me. I paid off $110,000 of debt in the last, 5, 7 years, 9 years, whatever it was. And I also had the opportunity for several better-paying jobs. I believe when people get out of debt, their possibilities open up. You know, most of my debt was medical, but that doesn't mean that your mistakes in credit card, don't respond the exact same way. Check it out. Follow through. It's a lot of hard work, but if nothing else, it's prepping. You'll see. It's prepping. It's living with your food storage. It's, feeding your kids rice and beans and figuring out if you can sell them next. It really works. The next step for most would be my short-term goal, to get 3 months of food and water on hand. I would recommend highly that of that 3-month supply, 50% of it is a combination of dehydrating and canning. And I have some logic for that. If you were to just go out and get your 3-month supply of canned goods off the shelves, all right, great. So you have this 3-month supply. You rotate it. How does that lead you to your 1-year goal? It's like starting over. If you're doing that and then all of a sudden you start canning and dehydrating, it is. It's like starting over. So if you take 50% of your 3 months and you can pickles or anything you can do with a water bath, I'm not telling you to go out and buy a pressure canner and then dehydrate all the vegetables you can. Go buy a $1 bag of frozen vegetables and get them dehydrated. And then when you're using those 3 months preps, you're also learning how to use your long-term preps. And you're incorporating them into your everyday meals. So that when you go to set your long-term goal or medium-term goal of your what's coming next, then you'll be one step ahead of the game. So if you make your transition to your 1-year storage, you'll learn how to cook with it. You'll be able to dehydrate it. You'll be able to use it. and it'll just be part of your rotation. And as you move more into that 1-year storage, you will find you get less and less of the store-bought canned foods on your shelf. And that is what you really need to do eventually. Okay, so then the next big decision. First priority, there's some great information on how to dehydrate and rehydrate foods. I do have a Google Docs that has some really great documents in it, and I will post that link later onto the same web page that I'm going to give you now that G-Man was kind enough to upload for me. And for those of you that are listening in and not part of the chat, if you go to the host show for Tuesday night and look at the description of this show at the bottom, it says resources and links, or click here for resources and links, and there's a document I put together for new preppers. I'm going to try to add to that document, and maybe some of you will send me some information that we can add to that document. Because remember, not one person has all the information. That's why we do these radio shows. That's why we have the chat room. That's why we do videos on YouTube. I do a lot of dehydrating and canning. Dehydrate to Store is another great person that has some great dehydrating videos and teaches you a lot of great things. Okay, so the next step would be your decision to bug out or bug in. You know, for most, bug in is what it would be. And for me, it would be the exact same thing, except a few years ago an opportunity came my way that allowed me to purchase some land. If you bug in, things become a whole lot simpler. With bugging out, you either have to have 2 of everything or drag items back and forth between locations, which is what I do for most of my items. You know, I'm not a rich person, and I'm unfortunately or fortunately a very generous person, and so I don't use my finances to duplicate things. I choose to help other people. And so I just have to drag everything back and forth. It's a little inconvenient, but it's worth it in the long run. So my link is funking out. DB, could you post the link to the resources in there? Apparently mine's not working. If you can't read that document, if you go to openoffice.org, you can download a free Word application that will allow you to open that document. All right, so next becomes security. Security and communications, as a matter of fact. That is, if you wish to communicate with anyone. I would say the least you should have would be an emergency radio to give you some information. It can even be one of those alert radios that just goes off when something happens. They're very inexpensive. You can pick them up at the Red Cross, really cheap. You can pick them up at Radio Shack. And they don't allow you to talk. They're just listening devices. If you want to go even better, you can go and get yourself a solar radio. Now, from this point forward, it will greatly diverge on your priorities, and it depends on what your goals are. So we're going to get into a few more things, and we're going to give you some questions that you need to be asking yourself. And, you know, don't ask yourself these questions once. Ask them over and over and over as time goes on. All right, you're going to establish annual fruits, nuts, and veggies if you have the ability to. You're going to then get your 1-year food storage with water and a means to cook it, off-grid heat, cool water, sewage, hand tools, clothing, and anything else you can think of. You have to think when you're on a limited budget, what is a priority and what is my priority? If you're in your home and you're using everything that's in your home, well, you've got a roof over your head, you've got a bed to lay your body on, you've got a safe environment where you can at least close yourself in. So you tackled a great bit of the battle right there. If you are bugging out and don't have a place to go, you have the hardest task. And it's not one that I would wish on anybody, because you go with what's on your back or any caches you've set up. And to me, that's not a prepper. That's somebody who thinks, oh, yeah, I can do anything, and runs out. A prepper prepares for things so that they aren't caught with their pants down. Okay, so let's go over some questions that you should be asking yourself. And folks, if you want to call in, please call in at any time. The phone number is 347-202-0228. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these. Okay, so let's go through some questions. First question you need to ask yourself as a new prepper: what am I preparing for? You preparing for a solar storm, you preparing for a hurricane, you preparing for financial collapse, you preparing for a job loss. You preparing because you're going to have to take care of your elderly folks. There's a lot of reasons to prepare, and as you step down this path, your reasons will change. So you need to think about what it is for you, because it's not the same for everybody. All right, how do I pay for all of this? That's a big question. You know, if as you get your preps going, you will find that money is freed up so that you can purchase more in bulk. But in the beginning, you're just barely getting by. And I know that because all of us seem to start at the same place where we're going, man, I'm barely getting by, but I really need to do this. You buy that extra can when you go. You find that sale, and even though you may not love corn, you go out and buy those 10 bags of frozen corn, 1-pound bags of frozen corn for 70 cents, and you dehydrate them. You do what you can. You buy toilet paper, you take a roll, and you set it back where the kids can't use it. But every day you do something for prepping. Every day. I don't care if it's reading a book, looking at a video, writing a note down in your plan, adding something to your inventory, evaluating a product that you purchased, whether or not it was good, looking at Craigslist, cutting a coupon. If you do something every single day, before you know it, you will look in that cabinet and look on those shelves, and you will be like, oh my goodness, it wasn't as stressful as I thought it was if I just stopped and made a plan. Priority has a question. Can't you prepare just in general to be 100% self-sufficient? Well, you can, but you got to set priorities. Okay, for example, I'm trying to be 100% self-sufficient. All right, so I have my retreat. Now, I had to think about, okay, where am I going to put my food storage? Do I start my food storage first, or do I start where I'm going to put it? Well, I got to have some place to put it, and it's got to be secure. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. And that's not what I did. I had my food storage here. I went out and bought this huge tent, 54 by 18 foot, 1,000 pounds, and I took it out to my property, and I said, well, now what do I do? I chained it to a tree and covered it in plastic. That lasted probably about 8 months because I didn't write a plan. And so my plan had to be, first priority had to be, I have to build a shed. I don't know if you've watched my videos. I'm not a large woman. I'm 5'8", but I'm a very small woman. And my children, my daughter helped me for 5 days. My son helped me for 2 days. And my neighbor helped me a little bit every day. I spent 9 days, and I built that shed from the ground up, because that's all I could afford to do. So in prepping, you have a choice. you can either spend your time as money or spend your money as money. I chose to spend my time as money. So I built my shed, and it's like, yeehaw, now I can go out there and put my preps out there. So then you get your preps on in that big, huge shed, and you go, I ain't got no preps. Where'd my preps go? Oh, no. And it gave me a chance to really see where I was at. And then my next goal was, okay, so I have this food, and I have to come out here to the retreat. How am I going to cook? Okay, I can just get some dead trees, and I can use them. That's a great plan, but it's not the best plan. So then my focus went to, all right, how can I cook it? Now, for new preppers, their focus is on food. That's and water, every empty jug, soda bottle. I'm very lucky in the sense that I live in a mobile home, and I put my water storage under the mobile home. Every bottle I got my hands on, I put it under the mobile home. You should see the looks I get when somebody comes to repair something. It's hilarious. Now, at the retreat, I have 55-gallon barrels. I have IBC tanks. I have a lake nearby. So, it's a little different. So you've got to evaluate your own situation and know what works for you. But just saying, I'll find enough is not enough. Food-wise, you want to start slow. If you have nothing, start with 1 week, then 1 month, then 3 months, and then round out your preps a little bit before you go for that year. Still add a little bit here and there, but round out your preps. And from 3 months on, you should be doing them consecutively. So you're not going to all of a sudden just go wham, bam, and do your 1 year. You're going to make sure you have enough to cook with for, 4 months or enough to take care of people. And, when you get to the point where I'm at, now I tend to focus more on things like, okay, so if I need to take care of my elderly parents, what do I need to take care of them? If I have anyone sick in the family, what do I need to take care of them? And then after that comes, what can I do to make them better so they aren't sick, so I don't have to take care of them? And that's a part of prepping that people don't think about a lot. It is going to be really, really hard work. I don't know if you've ever ground a cup of wheat with a hand grinder. It is not an easy process. That's why people in the olden days died so much younger, because it is so much more difficult. So you have to think about that. You have to think about all the time and energy that you're going to need to survive. And I have nothing, I don't want this to come out wrong, but if you're not in a healthy state and there's anything you can do about it, you need to start doing it. There are support groups out there for just about anything that can give you a hand. I'm trying to get together a show on what I have done and what people in my group have done to actually cure them of certain things. And it's absolutely amazing, and I'm hoping I can bring that show to you, because I would hope that everybody could be cured. So next we have to think about what we offer others. And this is mainly for you experienced preppers. After you've gotten everything up there, you got to think about, in a class society, bartering skills or items will pay off in a huge way. The only thing that will help me acquire the supplies that I don't have or want will be the ability to offer something to someone who has it and they find value of my goods or services to be more than what they have. If they don't, then they will not be willing to trade. I plan on and have stockpiled beans, rice, and tobacco. I will not be bartering guns or ammunition, because the person who I just armed would realize that if I can spare these essential items, I probably have other essential items, and now they have a way to get them from me. So think about that before you go giving things away or bartering them. And be very careful how you give it away. Don't let them see your 500 pounds of beans. Think about it. All right, we're going to take a moment here for a station break for those to kind of support those that support us, and then we'll be back with you.
Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by Joe and Amy Alton, the authors of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Handbook. See their articles in Backwoods Homes, Survivalist, Self-Reliance Illustrated, and Survival Quarterly magazines. Visit Joe and Amy's website at www.doomandbloom.net.
Hey, I'm Frank Bates. I just created a free video at survivewithsolar.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and the government for what they really are, incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your fear to keep your power bills criminally high. My video at survivewithsolar.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Go to survivewithsolar.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home before they make me shut it down. Again, that's survivewithsolar.com.
Okay, we're back to Preparing for Life Storms with Bear Prepper, and if you'd like to call into the show, the phone number is 347-202-0228. Also, we'd love to have those of you listening in the chat room to hear your side of the equation and offer some advice. So, I was trying to watch the chat room a little bit, and I see people naming people who have some great videos. That document that G-Man posted on the webpage has a lot of great links in it to other YouTubers and other places that you can gain valuable information. There's also a series posted on there for new preppers. And I think Minbound, and he hasn't called in, so I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout-out. Minbound on YouTube. He's going to be doing a new prepper series, so we're looking forward to that, and I think it'll help a lot of people. And I think Pet Prepper is getting ready to post one for new preppers. So they've all kind of chipped in and decided to step up and help new preppers, because the more of you that are helped, it's less we need to feed. So also, if you're interested in scenarios, and I see MIB was hoping for FHTF scenarios, we do have a great resource out there on YouTube, and they are actually putting a movie together. We've had them here on the radio show, Full Spectrum Survival, and it's spelled just like it sounds, Full Spectrum Survival. And they have some great scenarios. I love watching them. The prepper movie they're putting out is going to be a scenario, so that'll be really nice. What do you think is more important to get started? A garden or cattle for meat? I have acreage and I'm bugging in. Garden would be number one. If you can do a garden, you can grow beans, and beans are protein. Meat is a luxury. So it looks like we have some people in the queue, so let's go ahead and bring Autumn in first. Hey, Autumn, welcome to Preparing for Life Storms.
Hey, Bear. Thanks for having me. I wanted to say that I agree with you about trying to be 100% off-grid. I own a home in Pennsylvania. I'm in the process of completely trying to get that house off-grid. The first start was basically there's no electric to the house anymore. We've pulled out the stove, the refrigerator. I think if of all the appliances on the planet I will miss the most will be the washer and dryer.
Oh, amen.
The thought of, so to prepare myself here on Long Island, I've been actually washing my clothes by hand for the last, 4 months. And you want to know that I cannot tell you the muscles I had built in my arms. It's quite a chore. Now it's, I've tried so many different methods. I've dreamed of, ways to, build a washer that would fit on a bicycle and all sorts of crazy things. But anyhow, in the end, I always end up getting kind of lazy and just doing the bucket and plunger method. Not plunger, but the little thingamabobby. But I actually lived in the house for 2 years with no electric. And the things and the decisions you make is completely different than what you think you'll do if you're in that situation. So, you can prepare for a lot, but you will never really understand completely what you're in for until you do it. I've learned, I didn't really know anything about prepping until I kind of found YouTube, and I actually was watching, I guess it was the Doomsday Preppers, and I'd never heard of it. I haven't had TV for 15 years, so I don't watch it much. The Internet is my big connection to the world. Anyhow, there's just a lot of things that will come your way that you won't be prepared for. So I think about that all the time, and I wanted to say to people, if you're prepping and food is your first thing that you're prepping with or starting to store, never buy anything that you won't eat, because your pantry or your stores are something that you're always going to want to go to. And I have found one of the biggest mistakes I made was buying stuff that was on sale, and it's not something I would commonly eat, and ended up throwing it away because I had let it go past its prime. And I know sometimes you can still use it, but I didn't. I just threw it away, and I restocked the things that I knew I would use or eat at least. And that's, I guess that's my biggest thing. Gardening, somebody's talking about that. As far as gardening over beef, one of the things I've been looking into, a lot of people don't know how expensive it is to raise cattle. It is mucho expensive. And I have a horse right now, and I can tell you that hay is so expensive. And if you don't have land to grow hay and you don't have what it would take to harvest that hay, even if you do it by hand, raising one cow is just a tremendous chore. You might want to look into either getting used to goat meat or, see if you can snag a few venison during hunting season. Me here on Long Island, I only have 3 chickens, a couple of rabbits, and quail. And I've started to raise fodder for them. And if you don't know what fodder is, people can look it up. It's a way of growing seeds into kind of like miniature hay. It actually has better nutrients, better vitamins, and stuff like that. But that's where I've been going with this whole process, and kind of like prepping, but really homesteading as well, and trying to fit it all together. And sometimes it does, even for somebody who's been doing it for a while, it seems overwhelming, but you can slowly but surely figure it out.
That is some wonderful information, and I agree with you. Homesteading is a prepper on steroids. But it's a lot harder than anybody has a clue. I try to challenge people to shut off everything for the weekend, and I can't even make myself do it at this point, but that's what we need to do. We need to shut everything off for a week, and we'll set a date, and maybe everybody will shut everything off, and let's just all see what it's like.
Right, and take video of it. And I think it's a great idea. Unfortunately, I have a business, so I can't really groom dogs without electric. I don't think people would like how the dogs turned out.
Yeah, well, see, you work on weekends, right? So you work on Saturdays, so you'd have to do like a Sunday and another day.
I work Saturday, Sunday, but like I said, I did go without electric for 2 years, so I'm pretty. Wow. I am pretty well versed in what would make me the most miserable, and I can honestly tell you it's a washer and dryer. Everything else can be done. Everything else can be done. Except, like I said,
great information. Great information.
Anyhow. All right, I'll let
thank you for calling in. We
night.
got 2 more waiting in the queue, and I appreciate it so much.
All right.
Have a great evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Linda, thank you for holding. I'm going to bring Minma in real quick. He's got to go to bed, so come on in, Minma.
I got to go to bed, yeah.
How
are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Okay, so tell us about this series you're talking about doing.
Well, I thought about it because, it was a few years ago when I started putting things away, So I'm not really a prepper. I'm just a hoarder. But no, it was only a few years ago that I really started thinking that was a pretty good thing to be doing, is to putting things away for those times when, maybe just, you had not much income coming in, so it'd be better to have than not have. So, yeah, I see your comment, Pet Prepper. That's because I'm a New Englander.
There you go. But yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, and we've got so many new preppers. I think the economy has really started to wake people up, and they're all in freak-out mode, and I think it's our job as long-term preppers to calm them, to take them under our wing. And I'd like to challenge every prepper to take a new prepper under their wings and guide them so that they don't do the chaotic mistakes that most of us do. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I brought that up a while back when I first started doing things on my channel on YouTube, was, what about a mentoring kind of situation. And they got some good responses, and then they got some not so good responses too, but there goes the way of YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, you're always going to get the negative along with the positive. So, but we got to try to stay as positive as possible, because the harder it gets, the more negative it's going to get.
That's true.
Well, I hope you'll keep us posted on when you do these videos. Did you have some other information you wanted to add tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to some of those folks that are just starting out, or maybe thinking about starting out. Just keep it simple. The old saying, the KISS, it works, keep it simple. Water, food, a few extra things here or there. That's how I started off, putting things away, and oh boy, have I put some things away.
I remember when you started.
Yeah, and I God blessed me and put folks like yourself and American Game Pal and a bunch of other people, in my life to help me along. So hopefully that's why I keep doing what I do on YouTube, is to hopefully somebody else comes along and sees my videos and, picks it up.
Do you want to hang on? Do you want to hang on
Sure.
while we bring Linda in? Maybe
Sure.
you can answer her questions if she has one. Hey, Linda, why don't you join us?
Hi. I do have a few questions. I'm brand new, and I'm thinking about how am I going to store all this 100 pounds of flour and cornmeal and I don't know, I guess pinto beans and all of that. I was wondering if those plastic containers that you put all your Christmas stuff in and put it up in the attic, if that will do.
No, bugs are going to get in that when you say Minbound.
Well, I know I put, when I first started out, I didn't have the 5-gallon buckets, and I had a bunch of totes, and I made sure I vacuum sealed everything, and then I put it in the totes, so I had that vacuum seal barrier and the totes, and I've never had any problem with them. But then again, like I said, it all depends on where you store it. I stored mine inside where it was cool and dry, so not much of a chance of bugs being in there anyway. But
yeah, I do have an enclosed back porch, so I was thinking, well, I could put those plastic containers out there.
And you could, one of the things you could do is you could, collect like the big tea jugs, and you could store your rice and beans in those big 1-gallon jugs, and that would be a second barrier, and put that in your tote.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an idea. But that's an added expense. Everything is so expensive. I can't afford Mylar bags, and
right.
I just want to get it stored. And I do have, a vacuum thing.
Good.
I have one, but you think
Bags
about the cost of all those bags.
Yeah. Do you drink tea or anything that you buy in the store in a jug, or mayonnaise jars, or save every jar you have.
Oh, and just put them in any kind of jar.
Yeah, because those store perfectly fine for, say, 7 to 10 years in jars or something like that. Now, it won't store, the average 20 years that you should get. But you'll get 7 or 10 years out of it, and maybe by down the road, you'll, have a potato chip bag that's Mylar that you can seal stuff in. You'll have canning jars that are empty you could seal them in. Or you'll find at the LDS canneries the best place to get your Mylar bags if you have access to them. They are so cheap. It's, 15 cents or 30 cents a bag for the 1 gallons? That's really cheap.
Yeah, well, when I think about storing 100 pounds of something, it scares me. I mean, I can't even imagine how many jars that would take of we'll just say flour. Not to mention, I happen to like pinto beans, so that's what I'm going to store is pinto beans. So between the two of them.
Go ahead, Minbound.
I was just going to bring up a suggestion of if you want buckets instead of totes that are food grade, that you can go to Walmart's, most of Walmart's bakeries, and when they decorate cakes, they use the frosting. If you go in, you can buy the bucket and the lid usually for around $1 if you get them at the right time of year.
Well, I did that last week, and they said they don't do that anymore. They donate them.
Right around graduation times for cake decorating shops is a good time to hit, too. And for Mylar bags, MK Rose 77 on eBay sells 60 gallon bags and 60 O2 absorbers for about $23.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Can you post that in the chat room, Minbound, or can you say it again and I'll post it?
Yeah, I'll type it in.
Great. And we'll add that to the links on the page. So I understand that dilemma, and even if you have to just leave them in their bags, like the pinto beans in their bags, you can do that for a little while, and they'll be okay. Like I said, they just get older quicker. They take longer to cook, but they're still good to eat. They're not bad. They don't go bad that quick. So, and, make a coffee table. Put them under your bed.
Right.
There are a lot of places you can shove it. And you said you have your porch, your enclosed porch. You can put them out there and, put yourself up a screen to hide your totes. Save every bag, like when, some of these items you buy in the grocery store, like cereal bags. Sometimes they're pretty good bags. That would be better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw your bean bags in there and then close that up. And you can use an iron to close it up. Set it on low if you're not using Mylar. Very low.
Even potato chip bags, because they are actually Mylar bags, even if you put stuff in there, you could seal it with your food saver. It won't vacuum seal it, but it will seal it.
Oh.
And Cat Lover says Shipley Donut Shop sells their buckets with a lid for under $2. So try a Shipley.
Yep.
I have one other question, because I've heard this both ways. In storing water, because I don't have a 55-gallon tank. I don't have any large containers to store water. I'm using soda bottles, 2-liter bottles. Do I have to put a drop of bleach in those or not? We have really good water here.
Not for a year, and do not store those soda bottles in your home.
Okay.
They will deteriorate, and you will have a water mess on your floor.
What about foods that I can I keep those? I have a back pantry in my garage with a lot of shelves on it. but it's exposed to heat and cold, and mostly heat because I'm in the South. So how does that affect the shelf life of the things that I can?
It reduces it. One of the things, I store my stuff in a shed, and I'm in Texas, and so it's very hot here. But my shed is located on a hill. It's designed for airflow, and I have a solar attic fan. Garages get really, really hot, and there's no air circulation. So it will reduce the life of your food. But you know what? If you have food, at least you've got food. You just got to learn to rotate it sooner. That's, everybody is like, no, don't put it in the garage. But as long as you rotate to your environment, I rotate my shed every 5 years. I rotate my beans and rice every 10 years. So as long as you figure your environment and rotate accordingly, if I was in a garage, I would probably try to rotate everything every 2 years. But I'd still have it.
All right, one other question. I can, but I've just started canning, but I've watched a lot of videos, and so you have helped me a lot. Now, meat is a luxury. What is the best thing to can? Like, if you're really in an emergency situation and you still want to get nutrients, you don't want to eat a jar of cooked rice or, is it beans and rice, would you say, is the best thing to cook together, or is there any such thing?
What do you think, Min-Man?
I don't really can anything, well, for the most part, besides preserves, jams, delis. I don't really can anything but meats.
Oh.
Right.
I mean, because I think that's what, that's what I think is going to be the big shortage is meat, protein.
Yeah. Well, I'm a vegetable person, so.
I wouldn't can beans and rice. I wouldn't can vegetables. I would dehydrate my vegetables. They take up a lot less room. They can stand more heat, and they last longer.
I'm with Bear on that one because that's what I do mostly with my vegetables is dehydrate.
Yep. I can mostly meat and butter.
Oh.
Because I love butter.
Okay. Well, I do have a dehydrator, so that...
Oh, perfect. And, if you buy those frozen vegetables, you don't even know it. You don't even have to know how to blanch or anything else. You just throw them on the dehydrator. They're already blanched.
Frozen?
Yes,
throw them
ma'am.
on frozen?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
It's so easy, and you can get a huge stockpile of vegetables by doing that. And you can put those in your garage for about 10 years.
Wow.
Here's another alternative for your water situation. Do you have a place that you can get water from close by?
Well, I got a small creek very close by, but if the weather's dry, the creek doesn't flow. But if I drove about 7 miles or 8 miles, there's a good place. Well,
because where I live here in Minnesota, so we have lakes. Well, they call them lakes. I call them ponds, but and they're all within a quarter of a mile of me. So I didn't concentrate on so much on storing water as a way to filter and purify water.
I do have a water purifier. I just bought it, but it only holds 2 gallons. So.
Yeah, you just got to make the decision on what you're willing to do. I was sitting here thinking while you and Mindown were talking, okay, what would I do in that situation? Well, I could probably get most of my water from the creek probably 6 months out of the year. So if I was expecting an emergency and I had water 7 miles away, I would probably store enough for 2 weeks, which is really not that much. And I would just throw some bottles together, and that's what I would do because I would say, okay, I'm going to go get water and have a means to be able to bring that water back and not worry about it too much. And that's kind of what I do. My lake is probably half a mile from my retreat. And so I have a month's worth of water for 20 people. And with those 20 people, I think we can go and fill them back up and filter it and do everything else we need. So you got to think about it and just use your common sense and your best judgment.
Mhm.
That's what I do. I store about 30 days of water for 4 here at the house, but I have other ways to purify water, not just filtering it, but boiling it or whatever. On top of that, you got to have a backup for your backup.
Right.
Well, guys, I want to thank you both, and I've got Lady H and Q.
All right, thank you so much.
Some great questions tonight, Linda. Some wonderful questions.
All right,
thank
you.
you, Inbound.
Yep, anytime.
Get some rest. Okay, Linda, Lady H, you want to come on in? And before I start with you, I just want to say I'm going to keep going until the callers and the questions stop or until 9:30 hits, because I think this is an important topic, and I know towards the last half of the show, more people get courage, so we're going to keep going. And those of you that have to leave, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope you come and join Bobby next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time for some of his shows. And Lady H, so what's your question tonight?
Well, I didn't really have a question, but I've been working at this for about not quite 2 years. And I've always done, kind of buy an extra can. It's like when I go to the grocery store, I would buy what I need, and then I always ended up it's like if I'm going to get 2 cans of a can of chili, I'll buy 2 cans. That way I've got one for this week and one for the next time I want some. That's just always been my mindset. That's how my mom always bought stuff at the grocery store. I learned to can growing up, so, that's a no-brainer there for me, and I do a lot of it, and I've learned some extra stuff from you. One of the things that I've discovered as I've built up my food storage is that I buy groceries differently now. Once you've got, 3 to 6 months worth of something built up, then you can start focusing more on, you need your few things for the week, whatever perishables that you don't normally keep stocked up. But you can wait until there's a sale to buy, the frozen corn or the cans of tomatoes or, like back in December, my Kroger's had beef roast on sale for $1.99 a pound. I cashed in $100 worth of quarters that I'd saved up, and you could only buy 2 packages at a time. I kept going back and buying the biggest packages I could. And I have 43 jars of roast beef canned up now.
Good for you.
I can't buy hamburger for $1.99 a pound, and this is beef roast. So
that's right.
It's like when you're thinking about, when you're just starting, just buy the extra of something. If all you can afford is an extra bag of rice, a 2-pound bag of rice, then buy a bag of rice. Don't stress over it. You've got more than you had before. But as you get things built up, then you'll see where, and you get them lined out. The best thing for me was getting my canned goods lined out in shelves properly. I finally got enough shelves I could put everything up. Instead of in this cabinet and that cupboard and that pantry and hither and yon. That helped me a lot to see how much I actually had and where I had holes that I need to fill. And you end up buying things when they're on sale, and you get a better deal that way. You're saving money in the long run, because if you buy what you eat and you store what you eat, then you're always going to have basically your own little grocery store. Instead of running down to the corner store to buy something, you just go into your pantry and pull something. Then when you do go to the grocery store, you buy the replacement. So it works out a lot cheaper that way because you can wait until you can hit sales. I don't do a lot of couponing because most of the coupons seem to be for processed stuff that I'm trying to get rid of. I still eat some, but I try not to eat a whole lot of it. It's just not healthy. The other thing that when the lady was asking about the buckets for storage, my local Chinese restaurant, they get their soy sauce in 5-gallon buckets. And they gave me 2 of them for free.
Oh, very nice.
So hit up your Chinese restaurants. Make friends with the owners, you know. you never know.
If you think about it, everybody's always got extra ones because they're always wondering how to get rid of them.
Yeah. In fact, this year I turned a couple into planter barrels. I don't have a very big yard because I'm in a mobile home in a park, and I don't have a whole lot of sun area. Most of my lot is shaded. Thank goodness. That helps in Texas heat. But I thought, okay, if I put plants in something that's movable, so if it doesn't get enough sun, I can move it. And this way it just works better for me because the soil here is pretty nasty.
Right.
You're used to that, I'm sure. But I, drill some holes in the bottom and put some empty water bottles. I saw this somewhere on the internet. Empty water bottles with the lids on them. I've snatched from work that people were throwing out, and I put those in the bottom of the bucket for drainage so that my plants won't get soggy. And I've got tomato plants and pepper plants and a couple of other things I'm putting out this year. So those 5-gallon buckets, wherever you can find them, come in handy.
They do. They're absolutely wonderful. Well, Lady H, thank you so much. What wonderful information. And I'm going to put a challenge to everybody in the room before everyone starts disappearing on me. So thank you for calling in tonight.
Thanks, Bear. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, folks, now I'm going to put a little challenge to all of you preppers in there, and I mentioned it earlier, but I want you all to take someone under your wing, and I want you to help them if you can. Guide them a little bit. We've got a lot of questions going on, and we usually do in our chat rooms, and I hope you all take it, to heart and help those around you. Now, I just lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Check that resource link out. It's not complete. I kind of whipped it together over the last couple of weeks. I have some other great resources on where to buy bulk foods. And I think Bjorn asked the question about frozen vegetables. What do you have to do with them? Dehydrate them. You open the bag. You throw them on your dehydrator. Set them to about 125. And I set them, put them on about 8 o'clock at night. And when I get up in the morning, I turn it off. I go to work. I come home. I turn it back on for 30 minutes. And then I turn it off, let them cool, and bag them. That's how I do it. I'd never be able to get anything done if I didn't do it like that. I work several jobs, and I have the radio show and YouTube, and, time is valuable. I don't have a lot of it, and frozen vegetables are the greatest for that. Now, when you're prepping, you've got to think about how you're going to fight off your boredom. There will be so many chores and a lot of labor involved in daily life after a collapse. We will all change our schedules back to sun-ups and sundown, but there will be a few hours of sitting in a dark, quiet house. So I've stocked up on audiobooks and Kindle books that can be listened to or read in the dark. I know books are wonderful, but you got to have a candle for those. So think about that. I have the solar capabilities to recharge my Kindles. Pads of paper and pens and crayons, they're all great to store and take up very little room. Cards, large puzzles, and real books are also great to combat boredom, especially for the kids during the day. But you're going to put your kids to work, too. It's not going to work if you don't. I'm actually looking forward to listening to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged without interruption in my downtime. So think about what you want to do to bring your sanity back to you if something bad were to happen. And remember, folks, just take it one piece at a time, a little every day. You don't have to panic. Just waking up, you're already ahead of everybody else. And there are many of us to guide you and advise you or point you in the right direction, because not one of us has all the answers. But we've done a lot of research, and we've gone through the paths that you're heading. And, you know, if you want to see what's going on in the economy, check out Charlie in the Box on Friday night. If you want to start a garden, check out Bobby on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, MHP Gardener. He's an amazing gardener. Check out Lana on Monday nights if you want to know about herbals and just a variety of things. And then, of course, there's Goat Hollow. We've got some wonderful hosts here on prepperbroadcasting.com and a lot of great information. I don't see questions coming in and callers calling in. So unless I get someone hollering at me, no, stop, and posting a question, I'm going to go ahead and finish up here. So tonight, rather than a quote, I think I already said this, I'd like to ask all the seasoned preppers to reach out to at least one prepper and take them under their wings and guide them through the prepping functionally. So I will see you. I'm looking. Okay. I will see you April 2nd at 8 p.m. Central Time, when we will once again have Cindy from Cindy's Lifestyle Treasures on to talk about cooking for $10 per week. And I think she has a family of 6. Want to know where those extra dollars are going to come from to fund your preps? This is the perfect place. So join us. I'm preparing for life storms here on prepperbroadcasting.com. You can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.